Manipur issue was once again raised at the United Nations Human Rights Council. This time it was the Meitei CSO. And the issue is whether you belong to one community or another doesn't make a difference. The attempt of internationalization, is it akin to crossing a line, Lakshman Rekha? This will be the focus of our discussion today. The International Peace and Social Advancement, a society led by Khuraijam Athouba, who is also the spokesperson of the COCOMI, spoke about the ongoing crisis at a UNHRC meeting session in Geneva. Mr. Athouba asked for international intervention to resolve the conflict. He said the indigenous population is under severe threat despite the presence of 60,000 troops in the state. He spoke about the violence, drone bombings, attacks by armed groups including militants from Myanmar. And he said, before I play out the bite, that special rapporteurs should be assigned. And he said the growing threat of the narco-terrorist groups should be addressed. And then he said, it's not a regional issue anymore, but a human rights emergency. Let's listen in to what he said.
Placing the indigenous native population under severe threat. Over the past 15 months, armed groups belonging to Chinkuki narco-terrorist groups who are under peace talks with the government of India have launched violent attacks using drone bombings and rockets from far as 7 kilometers away. The situation has escalated to a different level, targeting civilian areas, resulting in several deaths and destruction of properties. Recent alerts reported by the chairman of the Unified Command confirms that approximately 900 Kuki militants have infiltrated Manipur from across the Indo-Myanmar border, planning coordinated assaults against the native population. Despite the deployment of over 60,000 Indian troops in the region, there has been little effective action, raising concerns of government complicity and an apparent prioritization of geopolitical interests over the security of its own native citizens. Manipur's indigenous people are now trapped in a hostage-like situation caught between escalating violence and ineffective state protection. This is not just a regional crisis, it is a grave human rights emergency with far-reaching implications, threatening the very existence of one of the oldest civilizations in Southeast Asia. We urge this council to intervene to protect the native people of Manipur, where the Indian government has failed till date, to assign relevant mandate office and special rapporteurs to assess the ever-deteriorating situations in the region, and also to recognize the threat of immigrant armed narco-terrorism and take necessary actions to stop it from spiraling further. We urgently seek your immediate attention. Thank you.
The Kuki CSOs had also submitted a memorandum to the United Nations in June 2023 seeking intervention in the Manipur crisis. In September 2023, India rejected UN expert statement in which they had alleged that there was inadequate humanitarian response by the government of India in resolving the Manipur crisis. India called the statement unwarranted, presumptive and misleading. Kuki and now Meitei group approaching the UN and other international organizations and seeking an international intervention in Manipur is not only wrong, but it hurts India's sovereignty. Have the Manipur CSOs crossed the Lakshman Rekha once again? And that's the crux of it. Brijesh.
Well, absolutely. I think, the kind of language which was used and the kind of assertion which was being made, it looks like, that we are living in a banana republic and the state of Manipur has been left to fend for itself and with all kind of, armed militia running over the place. This is not the case. I agree that, a lot needs to be done in controlling the ethnic strife which the Manipur has been witnessing for the last 16 months and more. But that doesn't mean that the kind of statement which was made that that you want to have UN appointed rapporteurs to come and look for themselves, the kind of the explanation which was given by Athouba, I think it leaves a lot to be desired. You can raise your concerns with the government of India, you can raise your concern with the state military, state government, and you can try to find out a solution to the existing problem. You may not like the way the problem is handled, but that doesn't mean that you go abroad, try to internationalize the issue and then try to seek help from the UNHRC, where you very well know that how the position stands.
Absolutely.
This is absolutely completely unwarranted behavior and attempt made by the concerned gentleman.
Prasannaji.
Yes, I think I go along with Brijesh quite a bit on this, but the only thing is that UNHRC, being a neutral body which deploys special rapporteurs, supposing special rapporteurs are brought in the case of Manipur, the side which will be held responsible is certainly Khuraijam's, this gentleman's side, because being the dominant community, and being not able to maintain peace and harmony with other communities. Internationally, everyone knows that the image of the government is not very good. Biren Singh's government and the kind of vigilante group and the demand of cessation from India and restoration of the pre-merger status, etc., certainly doesn't go well with the concept of India's national sovereignty. So the communities can fight between them, but no one should question sovereignty of India. Now, if Manipur state also needs to be redrawn in terms of new political arrangements to find out a political solution, which I was advocating in terms of Bodoland Territorial Council giving larger autonomy without dividing the state. If all these have to be maintained, then a certain kind of restraint also have to be exercised by this gentleman and his organization, because if they are going and speaking out of the blue, something taking out of the head, a new rabbit out of the head that they're taking out diplomatically, does not really put India in a good light. But if, of course, there is a
Sanjit,
neutral
I completely agree with you.
UNHRC,
I absolutely,
it is going to backfire on its face.
I completely agree with you. It doesn't put India in a good light, but more than that, General Chauhan, if you look at it from the perspective of colonialism, I don't know how many cases from the United States of America went to United Nations Human Rights Council. How many cases from UK and Scotland have gone to United Nations Human Rights Council? Any case from Japan that has gone to United Nations Human Rights Council? The countries which have undergone colonialism, the cases go there, and then you have some white pants sitting pontificating on the Indian issue. Why should anything be debated outside India? We can debate everything inside India. We are a democratic country. My issue is, has the Lakshman Rekha been crossed? I feel you cross a Lakshman Rekha, देश की बात देश पे होनी चाहिए, बाहर नहीं होनी चाहिए. घर की बात घर में होनी चाहिए.
Karthik, I could not agree with you more. I agree with Brijesh, absolutely. The United Nations has no business, absolutely no business, to even debate what is happening inside India. And of course, the CSO, the civil organization, and this time the Manipuri civil organization, that has gone to the United Nations to speak about something which is absolutely incorrect. In fact, to my mind, he should be, moment he comes back to India, should be arrested and should be asked as to why did you take this issue to the United Nations? Why can't you take it to the government of India? And all the facts, in fact, if you read his statement, which I did, are all, his statement is based on incorrect facts. The fact that he says 900 cookies have crossed into India was an incorrect fact. The fact that he says that it is the center of narco-terrorism, it's an incorrect fact. So all these issues, Karthik, are incorrect. They're based on false information. And false information which he's taken to the United Nations to make India look bad. I have seen that actually the UNHRC has actually seems to have nothing else to do. They have no business to look inside India, and I agree with you. It's the colonial countries that are suffering, the countries that went through colonialism, that seem to be subjected to some kind of very funny interference at the United Nations level. This should be called
General
out
Chauhan, my
immediately.
response has been, it's not that I have picked up this issue. If you recall, I just would like to remind you, in one of the shows you were there, when some of the cookie CSOs had gone, and they had
yes, absolutely,
if you recall, and the issue of religion had come up, that this is religion related.
Yes.
I said no, it's an ethnic issue. You can't make it into a religious issue.
Yes.
So I did this debate, and I said no, one, it is not about religion, धर्म की बात नहीं है, ये दो communities की बीच की बात है, और दूसरा आप देश की बात बाहर क्यों कर रहे हैं?
We have been talking about this, Karthik, from the beginning. It's not a religion issue. Stop making this a religion issue. It's an inter-tribal problem which has to be sorted out between the two tribes themselves. No one else has any business to be coming inside. But at the same time, this is what I've noticed in troubled areas, is that these organizations fish in troubled waters. Whenever we allow a system to go wrong, then a whole lot of more such piranhas come inside. We have to make sure, and I've been on your show many times about Manipur, saying, sort this problem out. Let's sort it out quickly. Let's make the political changes quickly. Let's bring about peace. Let's bring the two tribes together. We can't let it continue like this. And if there are political changes needed to be required, we must do those political changes. Don't allow others to fish in troubled waters. We've been saying this continuously, Karthik.
General Sahib, you have served in the
but
Northeast.
over the
Why are
last 1 year.
CSOs so powerful? And then I'll go to Prasanjit on this. Why do CSOs exercise so much of power, which I find, I am from mainland India, which is more than the legislature, which is more than the executive. Why do they exercise so much of power and public opinion?
Karthik, to tell you the truth, they don't exercise political power. They don't undertake, they don't exercise any kind of power. They're just one side issue. And they have been given a long rope. Otherwise, if you go to the states, and as you know, I've served almost 20 years of my career in the Northeast, there, nobody listens to these CSOs at all. They just fill up editorial space, they fill up space in the media, but in reality, they are nowhere politically. Every one of our states has a political government in place. It has elections. None of these CSOs have ever been elected in any kind of organization. In any kind of election, none of them have come into leadership roles. So there's no question. They remain a fringe issue, Karthik. They remain a fringe issue, and they're allowed to make this noise. This issue must be resolved quickly. We do not need anyone else's help to resolve issues within our country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prasanjit, you know, the affiliated CSOs, last year you were also part of that discussion in which I took a very strong line. ये बात बाहर क्यों की जा रही है? यहाँ हो सकती है, शिलोंग में हो सकती है, इम्फाल में हो सकती है, दिल्ली में हो सकती है, कहीं भी हो सकती है, सारी बात हो सकती है. Do you think that there is some sort of a push from somewhere else to, you know, push these bodies, rake up this issue?
I mean, they are themselves accusing as if, the matter was created because of the external forces from outside the border. Now we can see exactly who is going out of the border and doing what outside the country. So you can see a kind of a double-edged kind of a political attack on the other side by raising the matter as a human rights concern, which is violated in the worst possible manner in the valley itself. Since the time of this demonstration of vulgarity and aggressiveness and various ways of displacing the Kuki minority there in the valley. Valley is the center of political heartland of Manipur. And there other communities are not feeling safe at all. Until now, peace had not been restored. And in that situation, you go to the Human Rights Council to say what? Whose human rights are violated? Giving a fake narrative about human rights and making tall claims about one's own victimization is to play a false victim card. The victim card of the privileged cannot be played in UNHRC. So it's a great tactical mistake, a blunder committed by the so-called civil society groups. I would say this. They should rather do an introspection, a soul searching, if it is a question of human rights. In human rights, we do not go by community. Be it Meitei, be it Kuki, every life lost is very, very valuable. So there is no mention about Kuki lives being lost in the speech that this gentleman is making. So it's not really a human rights speech. It's a partial biased representation
Mr.
of one's own position. Especially the vigilante group, the way they are destroying peace
Prasanjit,
in
let me get Brijesh.
No measures have been taken
I'll come
so
to you.
far.
I'll come to you. You know, I have noticed that in these forums, vertical positions are taken. Like the last year, those CSOs said it's a religious issue. You know, the minorities are being targeted. Church ko attack kar diya. Right now, it has become a different issue.
I think when they use the term external forces, I think they mean themselves. The external forces which are trying to destabilize or present a false narrative are the external forces which try to present this as a religion conflict, saying, pitting Hindus against Christians and saying that Christian churches are being burned just because, they are Christians, and not presenting the full reality. Such is the case, as Professor Prasenjit very eruditely put out, the case with the gentleman with Mr. Athouba, who presented it as if, there's just one-sided victimization which is being taken place. I think, there are issues. I'm not going to whitewash and say, oh, nothing happened and all. Nobody can say that. Nobody's going to deny what is happening in Manipur. We have been covering it for the last 16, 17 months, and everyone hopes that situation comes to normalcy. But, if you want to form a pressure group, I would say the more effective way of forming a pressure group is to do it in India, is to do it in New Delhi, it is to do it in the capital, or do it in Imphal. But going abroad, UNHRC saying that, the UN appointed special rapporteurs should be sent there, situation is dark, the government is not doing anything, is presenting an extremely alarming picture. You are the dominant community there. The way, when it was said that the Kuki side said that it's a Christian versus Hindu, it was condemned unequivocally. And I don't see any reason why the other, what is sauce for the goose is also sauce for the gander, Kartike. There cannot be differentiation when it comes to the territorial integrity of the country or the honor of the country. You want to create pressure groups, do it in New Delhi. Sit on Dharna, go talk to ministers, go and talk to people who are at the, role playing, leadership role, talk to them, exert pressure on them, force them to come to terms, talk to other CSOs and all. There are 100 ways of doing things. But going abroad, UNHRC presenting one side narrative that, that there's a human right violation. I agree with Professor, when he says that human right violation is when it doesn't make the distinction between who's Kuki and Meitei, and it's done, equally, everybody is a victim there. This is not happening in this particular case. And the side which is saying that they are being victimized is the side which is the dominant majority as far as the state population is concerned. They have the bigger hold in the administration. We all know how it is, as per the situation which is there in the state of Manipur. I think, it should start putting political pressure. It should start putting pressure on the CSOs itself, that they should start initiating a dialogue between the two communities.
Absolutely.
And make sure that, some sort of breakthrough. I
completely agree with
but
you.
It cannot be that, you go there, say that, please intervene so that situation will improve. Who's going to intervene?
In fact, I completely agree with you, Brijesh, that there should be some sort of a pressure on all these civil
CSOs,
society organization कि आप एक दूसरे से बात कीजिए. मतलब आप
you can't be holding the entire situation and community as hostage and then go and
आप vertical positions को reinforce मत कीजिए. आप vertical position के बजाय positions bend कीजिए और एक दूसरे से बात कीजिए. And I can say this, I told you that there was a function last year where a very senior functionary associated with RSS and BJP organized. So first day I thought, they will be in one group. So first day I met all the Meitei intellectuals, and the second day I met all the Kuki intellectuals, and then I realized that they could not organize them to sit together. General Chauhan, I am not lying. एक कमरे में नहीं बैठा पाए.
Absolutely. This we've been talking about this issue, Karthik, for a very long time. The issue about too many people trying to get and gain some importance within this issue, trying to rake up these issues. We have to be very clear, both at the administrative side and the political side and the security side, that we remain committed to sorting out our problems. We remain committed, and no single tribe is being targeted by the state. We must have an issue that sorts out all problems.
Straight question for you, sir. I have a straight question for you. I was just going through it. When I started it, I did not use the word. Over a period of time, it has become part of the coverage. Narco-terrorism. Do you buy it? Is it happening? CM says it's the core issue.
Karthik, I've spoken about this many times. Definitely narcotics are being smuggled inside the country. But it's not narco-terrorism. It's not the kind of things that we have seen in South America. We do not have a similar situation here. Yes, we are at the end of what we call the golden triangle. Narcotics are definitely entering the country. But what is happening in Manipur is not narco-terrorism. It's definitely not. It's a tribal issue between the Meiteis and the Kukis. Both sides have been manipulated. and both sides are creating a problem for themselves. And all these other canards that are being floated around are absolutely incorrect. This definitely is not the process of narco-terrorism. I don't buy this at all.
Okay. Prasannaji?
Yes, I mean, the point here is that civil society groups must
No, my
talk
question
to
is
each
straight.
other.
Narco-terrorism is a word that has emerged. CM has multiple times, even in my interview, said that understand that the narco-terrorism accompanied with immigration change in demography is the core issue. Is that the core issue? Because this has found.
It's mentioned here as well.
I mean,
It's
how
mentioned
does
here
one
as well.
talk about demography, because after 2011, no census was carried out. And there is more or less the steady percentage of population remaining. 53% Meitei population and rest are tribal population. There is no population change in Manipur. Now, on and off, one talks about certain settlements that have cropped up in certain districts. Now, if you look at it, some of these are displaced people from Myanmar. They come and they go back. No one is an illegal immigrant in Manipur. So this theory about illegal immigrant is blown beyond proportion. A bogey has been created. Similarly, a bogey has been created about narco-terrorism without looking at the causes by which this riot was created, how the cycle of violence and counter-violence were launched in the month of May, and since then it continued. Even the false narrative about drone bomb and 900 cookie militants entering were also tom-tom. So you can see false narratives, you can see a certain kind of an ethnic hatred and no kind of humanitarian work on the ground, creating continually a state of displacement, a psychopathic fear in the minds of minorities as well as in the minds of ordinary majority people as well in the valley. So you can see the mindset and the continuous heinous attempt at keeping the problem alive. And there is no political solution if the existing political leaders have failed. It is possible to change the political leadership.
Fair enough.
Why that change is not happening?
These are your views, but at the end, I can only say that the matters, you can have different views on Manipur, that's absolutely okay. I personally believe that yes, if you ask me, drugs are an issue. Drugs are an issue. Drugs are an issue. They can create a political economy, and drugs can actually fuel militancy. As General Chauhan said, he very correctly differentiated in his own way. He says there are two different things. It's not like what's happening in Colombia, South America. But I would say that, well, the real success of the conversation is by accommodating all the views. Not saying that your view does not matter. True. Or only my views matter. But in this view, I can only say the only thing that matters is India. Only thing that matters is the sovereignty of India, India's territorial integrity. और घर की बात घर पे होनी चाहिए. Whether you can belong to one community, another community, doesn't make a difference. The fact that people are going there and coming back and going there and coming back, I think there has to be some sort of a advisory, at least from the government, that this is not appreciated. This is not appreciated. The domestic matters are being, as you very rightly said.
You cannot internationalize and without having those kind of legitimate grounds on which the grievances can be heard. I can understand that you're subjected to years of oppression and there is no political recourse on site and you have those vilified, pushed to the corner kind of community. Then I can understand that that your desperation has reached a level where there is no other option for you to do that. But I think this is what has happened in UNHRC is simply something which is completely uncalled for. You want to create a pressure group, do it in Manipur.
Absolutely.
Force the state government to act. Force the central government to act. That is how democracy works. That is what makes India a very strong democracy.
I completely agree with you. Brijesh.